I did it. Holleroo was amazing. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. That was so much fun. Almost Agreement at gmail.com. You got us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com, while you're there. Check out all the cool stuff I got going on. I guess I need to pull it on that Holleroo link since it has passed. Favorite podcast provider, get us there. Text an episode to your friend. Tell them how ridiculous and fun we are. We got a bunch of cool stuff to talk about. We got our boy Big John sitting in for a little bit tonight. We're going to talk about TCAP testing for 5th graders, among other stuff. So, Almost Agreement is about to get down. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
Hey, there, buddy.
Hi.
What's up with ya?
The end of the first week of TCAP.
All right, we'll come back to that in a second. What's up with you there, Sam Lama?
Oh, not much.
All right, just making sure we got to get the proper things out of the way. We got procedure and protocols we got to follow here. We're not the U.S. government. We got to do the things the right way every time. All right, so like I said, I got Big John in the house. He is finishing week 1 of his 5th grade TCAPs. This is, well, I guess it's not the super serious one. If you really screw up your 3rd grade TCAPs, they make you do 3rd grade again. Yep. But you're past that point. You got to wait till 7th grade before you have another one that's scary like that. I think it's 7th grade math. Is that the other one?
Do you want me to talk about TCAPs now?
That's what we were talking about, TCAPs now.
Okay, so yeah.
So you have 1 week, so 4 days, and then you took Friday off, right?
3 days, and I took Thursday and Friday off.
Oh,
that's both weeks.
So 6 days of testing.
Yeah, 6 days of testing.
Because the middle schoolers started on Thursday, and so they did Thursday, Friday, and then they're going to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're going to do their 6 days like that or something. But which is funny because the 7th grader said something about recess.
What?
Well, basically, because they were doing TCAP testing, like the schedule's all wonky,
yeah,
and so they had like a block of time where they just let them go hang out outside. To which they physically abused each other for 20 minutes and then went back inside to do more testing.
Physically abused? How do you know that?
Because they told me. They beat up on Evan for 20 minutes.
Oh.
That's what they said. Not sure why.
Biggie and...
Yeah, those guys. So anyway, how's your testing going? How's it?
I mean, it was stressful-ish.
Why is it stressful? Please elaborate.
It's stressful because, like, even though it's not necessarily for a grade, it is something. It's something that I feel like I don't know how to say it. It's just really like I don't know. It's like nerve-wracking, I guess, because.
I mean, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I'm just trying to understand why.
I don't know. I guess it's because.
Do you feel like me and Mom have put pressure on you to do well in them?
A bit, yeah.
Do you feel like your teachers have put pressure on you to do well in them?
Yeah, that's the biggest pressure.
Oh, why do you think they're putting pressure on you?
So especially my reading teacher, since I've only done reading and writing so far. Next week's gonna be math and science, but yeah. Especially my reading teacher, she said, especially for the writing one, that, like, on the Friday before it, during the weekend, do something cool. It was a Holleroo week. And
that was cool.
Do something cool, do something, like, to chill out and stuff. And because this is big, wink, wink, nudge, because she said the writing part was going to be super hard. But it really wasn't. It was just a quiet room for 80 minutes while I wrote some, like, a 4-paragraph essay.
Okay. I'm just trying to understand because I don't remember. I don't know. Did we do them in high school? Is there a high school equivalent? We did testing weeks?
Don't believe so.
I don't remember doing much of it because I didn't do this portion of my education in Tennessee. So I'm unsure about it but again, like it's one of those like I don't know. Maybe I was lied to, but there's part of it to me that I understood that he has to be as much testing the teachers as they were testing the students, or testing the teachers by testing the students. I guess is the idea.
In a sense, yeah.
And so they have pressure to make sure you do well on it, and for them to have the pressure, they need to pass that pressure on to you. Apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know if I like that or dislike that. It's just part of the...
Yeah, I don't like how they put pressure on you, especially on the writing one, because what they'll do is, like I said, they'll say it's super hard, but when you get to it, you get very, like, anxious because they've put all the pressure to you, and then it's just, like... And then you just do it, and it wasn't hard at all, or anything. And it's really annoying that they do that, because then it feels like if that one wasn't hard, then maybe another one's going to be really hard after it. And so it kind of
maybe
puts more pressure on
maybe you're good enough that it's not going to be hard, period. And despite their efforts to pressure you, you can relax and know that you're going to do okay. That would be my assumption for you, and knowing you and your education skills and whatnot, is that you can relax. You're going to do okay. You may not be the best grade in the state, but you're certainly going to be above average. I can guarantee you that.
I mean, yeah.
Well, we'll see it. They'll send us we get that somewhere like in the middle of the summer. we get the grading from it.
Yeah, that's a weird time to do it, I feel like.
It is, but it's a whole statewide thing. The whole state, every kid in the state is doing them right now. Yeah. And they're doing, as I understand it, they're doing the same test. Like all fifth graders in the state of Tennessee, from Memphis to Chattanooga to Johnson City, Nashville, and everywhere in between, are all the fifth graders that did this exact same test as you took this week.
Oh, well... Then
maybe it's not the exact same essay prompt that you got, but it's something that they believe is similarly functional to show your skill set.
Because we just got, we got one about dogs and their friends, and, how it shows the relationship. And so, basically, you just have to write how they're friends, or they don't like each other, or something like that, and then explain... And then tell, since you've already done the why, you just say what it is.
How you came to the conclusion.
Yeah.
Right.
And you explain your reasonings. That's what they want, what they're looking for.
Right.
And
which
then,
again,
of course, you do the first paragraph being the introduction, last being the outro of it, I guess. I don't know how to say it.
Conclusion.
It's a sandwich. You make a sandwich. That's how you write an essay.
Yeah.
The top one is kind of the most broad and introductory, and then you put the cheese and the meat and the veggies and whatnot in the middle, and then you got the bottom bun, which is kind of a repeat of your intro except backwards. Yeah. And you break it down.
Last year's teacher said testing like that was like an Oreo for some reason.
Yeah.
It's and then it was like OR something.
Oh, okay.
OREO, I believe.
That is Oreo, yes.
Yeah. They did that, and then they explained, that's a strategy to do, essentially, and I thought it was really stupid, because, why would you put the food into it when it has nothing to do with it, other than it's a sandwich. You could say sandwich, or 2 outside, and however many inside.
Okay.
So I don't like how they put the food in there.
That's how I learned it was the sandwich thing. Mine was a burger, like I said a second ago.
Yeah.
I think it's a good visual.
I'm excited for
ideal.
Summer break.
You're always excited for summer break. You were excited for summer break the day after summer break ended.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah. What are we going to do this summer?
Swim in the pool, that's for sure.
Well, you better get out there and start cleaning and getting it set up. It's ready. Mm-hmm. It's time.
Oh, sweet. But yeah, it's a month and a week, I believe. 5 weeks.
I don't feel like I've gotten any routine out of this entire freaking school year, and it's already coming to an end.
Yeah, because it felt so short, I feel like. Because, the first part of it. It was just kind of like introduction to all the new stuff we're gonna do, essentially. And then the next, and then the
I
second
know. I'll start
part
complaining
was-
about you're already done with the school year in like 3 weeks, even though you have four weeks left after that because you guys just start wrapping up early, and then they complain that they don't have enough time to teach you stuff.
I mean, 3 weeks.
Hey,
and
all the
then
teachers
4,
are getting
that
raises.
makes
They better
7.
be in better moods next year.
Wait, oh, they are? Nice.
Every single one of them. And you're going to get more teachers, and they better be nicer.
Yeah, that was a decent big problem. Because, like, half the time in the school year, because a few days ago, the teacher had to leave for a doctor's appointment that was, like, really important. So, yeah. Yeah, and instead of getting a substitute, we just had to go to the other classes because there was no one willing to substitute.
It's been an issue.
Yeah, that's a pretty big
Jennifer,
issue.
fix it. I'll yell at Jennifer Owen about it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what they're trying to do. That's part of why the raises are coming, because they think if the base pay is higher, they'll retain more teachers,
I mean, yeah, that's smart.
and then they'll have more in the budget to spend on subs, but not as much need for subs because they'll have more full-time teachers.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah. All right, man, last call. Anything else you want to do before we get out of here?
I mean, like, I'm excited for next year. For next year, especially since a few games that I like are are coming out next year, 2025, and so yeah, I'm also kind of really excited for the start of next school year, since it's like after the start, it's only like 4 or 5 months until Christmas.
All right, buddy. I love you.
I
love you. I love you. I love you. But
That's my guess.
you've got to start you got to quit marking your life by what the next thing is. I do it too. But it can't always be a countdown to your next favorite thing. It's got to be today is a cool day and let's have a fun time with it.
Yeah, I'm just excited. That's all.
I'm not saying you shouldn't be excited, but there's like 9 months between or 8 months between then and now, and you're already looking to skip past. That's a movie we need to add to our summer movie list. Remember Click? Mm-hmm. Adam Sandler movie.
I mean, I'm just excited. I'm not saying I'm gonna that's gonna be the only thing I'm looking forward to. I'm just excited for the game since.
I'm not saying you can't be excited for it. I was just pointing out what I don't know what I'm pointing out anymore. Be excited about your game. I'm not trying to yuck your yum here, buddy. Yeah. I think it's cool that you have things that you're excited about. I don't have a problem with that.
Anyways, I love you. Bye.
I love you. Thanks for stopping by. All right, Big John, everybody. Little John. Johnny Boy. I don't know. He changed his nickname on me, and it's not as much fun as his original. So, anyway, yeah. So, like, I don't know. I need to. I could text Jennifer probably right now, and she'd text me back because she's got nothing better to do on a Friday night except, probably enjoy her derby car in her garage that she's going to keep till next time because she came and raced. She didn't actually race, which is a whole other fun story. But I was always under the impression, at least, until these last couple of years when the state started throwing these like third grade retention parts in and 5th grade or 7th grade math initiatives, like so they started that the majority of the point of the TCAPs was more about the teachers than it was about the student. It was a way to.
I think it was a way to evaluate.
Right,
So I think for a while they would look at it to try to get a general idea.
Right, it's a way to evaluate the students, and by evaluating the students, you're evaluating the teachers.
Right, de facto.
Right. If a large portion of students is not doing well on a certain subset of the test, it would be a logical completion. Because again, all the kids are taking the test at the same time, more or less. And so, if one classroom of students is struggling with one portion of this test, it says more about the teacher,
right?
Because the other classrooms in the same school or something of that nature are doing fine on it. Then it's more about that teacher's not teaching that subject well, and this is a way that they can say, okay, we need to maybe do some, summer training for the teacher to get them better at that particular part of it.
Right.
Like I always thought that was at least the 51% plus of the point of the TCAPs was to look at the teachers in the schools.
I think it turned into that.
At the students.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I see it more as like 2/3 of evaluating education level of the kids, even though standardized tests isn't the greatest kind of metric of it, but there's not too many other ones. I did see something interesting on Finland recently. They still do standardized testing, but they don't release the results. I guess it's pretty much all like just internal data to where they look and see how the kids are doing, how the teacher's doing.
Not sure I understand the point of that, or what the difference in that is. I mean, they release results here, but nobody cares or knows how to read it. So,
yeah. Okay, 67 percentile of the average.
I mean, on the topic, it appears right now that the voucher's dead. Voucher bill is not going to fly. So, in the history of the sessions in the State House and Senate and whatever, the budget has been released. The budget is done. The budget has been signed off on. Anything that is not settled in a session after the budget that's still technically active in the session is dead. It's technically still kicking and screaming and pretending to be alive, but like in the history of the state, there's only been like 3 items that have been passed through both bodies and made it to the governor's desk post budget resolution.
Yeah, I think it was either article you sent me or another article on it that basically said they had this weekend to possibly work something out.
Try to get the last, like the last dying gasp of it. And there was something about like piggybacking it on some other bill that had some better traction or something like that, and some other stuff going on in there, and some weird, procedural mess that they like to do every once in a while. But it is an election year, so session's going to wrap up real quick.
Think so?
Yeah. I mean, all the House members are itching to get out and start campaigning. That's another one of those, like, it is not a rule. I mean, it is a rule. They can't fundraise yet, but it's not a rule how long the session rolls. So they can end session when they're ready to end session. But like historically, the rule has been even number of years or shorter sessions because they're trying to get out to go campaign. Like, it's been very rare that there's a longer session in even years. So I don't know. Like, I still don't know how I feel about the whole voucher, not voucher, whatever thing. I did see that there was a couple of little, like, I think one of the things that really put the nail in, which kind of proved that guy's point that I watched the interview with, the conservative take on why the voucher is a bad idea, is one of them was trying to tack on an amendment that said, well, the students who receive state funding to take to their private schools are going to have to take the standardized tests. Now, the way I read it, at least, it didn't say that the private school would have to administer the test, but they would still have to take the same testing that a similar age student would be taking in the public schools if they're gonna use those dollars.
Interesting.
Which, realistically, that is like I said, that guy that I watched the interview with, like, that was that's the eventuality, and well, that eventuality came real fast. Apparently, a lot of the rural Republican counties are having problems with it because
I think that's what I read. Yeah,
you get out into, like, I don't know, some of these more, like, some of the more rural counties that have a high school, like, it's
or like a school period,
right? Like a high school, a middle school, and a elementary school, or like maybe 2 elementary schools, a middle and a high, or something like that. Just very sparsely populated or whatever.
You've got 20, 30 kids graduating every year,
right?
And that was a big year,
right? But that's that's the totality of, like, the community. All the community runs around the school,
right?
And for those populations to let that go private, not that there would likely be a private school that would come out there, realistically, because it's probably not profitable to have a 200, maybe, I don't know, you'd have to work the math, but a 200 member private school would be a pretty tough math equation, financially speaking, for the business side of it. And that's if you took every kid, like, realistically, you're going to get every kid in the county to come to your private school. And so those reps are having a hard time with it, and that's apparently why most of why it's fallen apart. But it's interesting. I felt like it was a done deal when the session started, so don't take my advice on the future of how the House and Senate work in the state.
I thought there was something along that lines of when Maine passed a law, and I think it ended up going up to the Supreme Court, and then they let it stand, basically, that was allowing state funds to go to, like, parochial schools, basically, religiously based schools. But it was kind of along the lines of kind of like this voucher thing of kind of school choice. And, if a family didn't want to go to that public school.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, one of the problems I have with the anti-argument is it's like the catchphrase is like public school or public money, public schools. It's like we use public money in private industry all the fucking time. Like all the time. It is a fairly consistent and regular thing throughout all portions of government relations.
Yeah.
Like the state of Tennessee or the city of Knoxville will bring in a private company to do a certain task. Which I guess that is probably, closer equate. Well, it's a tomato potato argument, I guess, but that's probably closer to a charter school functionally in premise. But either way, it's like, well, no, that's I mean, I just don't like that argument. That's all I was getting. It's like I don't like that because we do that a lot in a lot of different aspects, and so it's like, okay, public money, public schools. All right, well then public money, then the state of Tennessee or Knox County actually has to build the road. They're not allowed to go contract that out to a third party to build the road, which they do all the time.
Right.
All this, maybe I guess KUB does the sewer work. I'm not sure what else I could think of under the, whatever. I mean, there is some that I'd kind of agree with. Like you can't have these weird third party traffic camera things. Like public money, public police. The actual county police have to do the job or state police have to do the job of traffic control, not some weird camera system from Ohio. I'll agree with it on that one, at least.
I thought I'd heard years ago that some of the cameras themselves were actually like reviewed by a person.
I'm just saying, like, but it's not. Is it? It's not a.
Or reviewed by a local
local
law enforcement person.
I
Could have been misinformation. I'm not really sure.
I don't know.
There may have been different cameras at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of different versions of the program, different places.
Yeah,
but I mean, I would think that if I'm Knox County, like logically, if I'm Knox County or the Knox County Sheriff's Office, and I'm looking at one of these, it's like, so you're telling me that you'll come, you'll buy the camera, you'll mount the camera, you'll take the pictures, you'll confirm them with a live person in your office, and you'll send me like 30% of whatever the fine is. So I do nothing and I get 30% of all the fines you collect? Okay.
Right.
I'll take it, as opposed to...
And arguably it may stop people from actually running red lights,
right,
et cetera.
Okay. As opposed to, I'm going to pay an officer to sit there, or I'm going to pay an officer to watch the camera, and that officer's going to write the ticket, and that's just, by the time you get through the whole process, you're looking at hundreds of dollars in man hours to get to this point where you're getting a $150 ticket. It's like, well, it cost us more than we made. Plus we have to buy the cameras and we have to do this and the software and the blah, 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 blah. And
that's a weird little catch of what you were talking about earlier, with roads and whatnot, that it's cheaper for us to contract out an asphalt company that has all that versus the county having to buy steamrollers, machinery, et cetera, which they have I'm assuming they've got, they have some.
But not enough to do all the different, it's like, and I don't know. And I think it's planned, but it's planned that way, Like Knox County plans it that way.
Right.
They know that if they needed to do the full maintenance on their own and do all that kind of stuff, that they would need X number more items.
Right.
But in a real, like in at least what seems on the surface to me to be an actual, constituent first, fiscally minded move, you say, well, I can hire this guy who travels all over the state that does road work, does really good road work, and he has all the equipment and stuff like that. I can hire the guy. I can get Knox County Sheriff's Office to do the traffic control for when they're doing the work, and that rolls into normal Sheriff's Office cost. And we can literally pay 30% of what it would cost us to keep all the equipment, to keep all the machinery, to keep all the staff on to do it ourselves.
Right.
I mean, I assume that's a good thing if, they're not hiring buddy contracts and
it's technically
overpaying.
Well, I mean, I guess it is costing some taxpayer money, but it's saving more taxpayer money.
It's costing less than it would over time.
Right.
Like, yes, you get into it, we need X number of trucks and X number of, like, I don't know what that machine's called, like the pavement, the asphalt laying machine that's like suction cups to the back of the dump truck.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever that machine's called, and the dump trucks themselves.
Well, first you got that machine that tears up the road before you put down the new road.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, you buy the machine once and it should last X number of miles of road, which should be a significant sum, and so you do the math. I mean, this is the same thing the company does too. It's like, the machine costs $1 million. I'm going to do 100,000 miles of road with that machine, so it costs me $100 a mile to operate this machine. Over 10 years or whatever you do the math on. Anything, if I can keep this machine running past 10 years, then it's gravy. But whatever. But the city or the county would do the same thing. Anyway, I don't know. That's a weird detail that doesn't really matter. I think it's a reasonable way to go about certain things, to privatize where you can, where it makes logical sense.
Yeah.
Now, the schools, I will agree, it's not as cut and dry of a comparison as far as the logical sense of, but would it be better, cheaper, whatever it is, for us at large to get the result we want? It's not that easy with schools, where it is pretty damn easy with a road. I can hire a guy to do it for $5,000. It would, where at the end of the day, it costs the county $15,000, $20,000 to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's a win to me. But anyway, so the voucher bill's dead. Teachers carrying, I think, got passed in the House. I don't remember. I didn't hear the finish of the House side of that.
I remember. Yeah, I think it got passed in the House and it was going to the Senate.
I thought it was the other way. I thought it got passed in the Senate last week before we
maybe
talked
that's
about
what it was.
What's the other one that's been... What concerns me, you didn't seem as concerned about it when I brought up the age verification. The age verification bill for social media, which does bring us that interesting. I read most of that article. I didn't get all the way through that article, but the age verification bill, I think, died. I don't think it got finished. I don't think it survived. But that does bring us this Politico article you sent, which is pretty interesting. As far as it's kind of, to me, it reads like we're going about this internet social media thing, trying to figure out how to control the internet social media issues, all wrong.
Well, I thought it was an interesting take on it, as far as, I guess, the tools that we technically have within the federal government.
Right, but one of the things I'm not sure about, and I didn't see it in here, but I don't know that the FCC has authority over anything on the internet. They don't have authority over this, and this is an internet.
Well, it doesn't,
podcast.
but I think if my memory serves me correct, it's basically, I think it has to do with basically contract, and it basically defrauding the customer, like a company.
Oh, they did say that part. Yes, that right in the terms of service they say X, Y, and Z, but then they don't do it.
Right. Because apparently, I don't remember it, but apparently in 2020, Facebook got a $5 billion fine for privacy. I think it had something to do with privacy, basically. Not protecting privacy.
Right, the terms. You signed off on the terms, and they're saying we protect your private information, and they're immediately turning around and selling it. That's a blatant.
I don't remember if that's what the fine was.
Right, it was something like that, but yeah. I don't know.
Well, you should have read the fine print. It's like, nobody reads the fine print. Yeah, we know that.
Right. That's why the Federal Trade Commission or whatever that exists to read it for us. So,
yeah, I thought it was interesting.
It was. It was a different. It was a different way of going about to get the end.
It's like, hey, it's a ugly, sticky thing trying to enforce standards, but these are private companies that can set their own standards. If we have those companies say, hey, put out in black and white what you allow and what you don't allow, stick to it.
Right. Because I think that's one of those things that. I think that's one of those things that, especially in the Trump era of politics, has gotten. I want to say overblown, but I don't think that's the right word. But has become a weaponized issue, I guess is a better way to put it. Is they shadow ban me because they don't like my opinions. They they boot off this guy and this guy and this guy, but they don't boot off this guy because he's a Democrat and I'm a Republican or whatever. Yes, please, while you're in there, please, sir. And so, I mean, I would I can't help but agree on some level with, okay, if you're going to set out rules, then you need to follow the rules that you set. And if you're not going to follow them, then I guess I'm okay with the premise. I like the idea of it. It's like, okay, be clear. You can't say, you can't say from the river to the sea or whatever on Twitter.
No, yeah.
In regards to Palestine. because that's anti-Semitic somehow, and they'll kick you off of Twitter for it. And it's like, well, that's another weird thing that Congress actually passed that as, like, they passed a resolution stating that was an anti-Semitic statement.
Huh.
So I'm not an anti-Semite, people, but I just said an anti-Semitic thing apparently. But like if the terms say, racist, derogatory, inflammatory, like it's still a little hazy because it's open to some interpretation,
right?
On whether that's a actually inflammatory statement or not. But at least if there's a clear rule to start from, you can argue the merits of what's in front of you instead of arguing the merits of, well, is the rule real or not? And I could get down with something like that being more standardized.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the companies have been just kind of, I don't really know how to put it. Not really being apathetic, but not really trying too hard. That was only, I like when they talked about it or they kind of joked about in the article that, they're going on their yearly apology tour, basically. Like, oh, we're trying to community standards. Oh, but, but we're such a big company and we can't, all this fast, communications, coming out in milliseconds. We can't monitor all of it, blah, 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 blah. But it's kind of been that same story over and over again for years.
Yeah, I mean, to me,
we introduced this new thing where you can go live on our thing and start live streaming video. It's like, okay, introduce something that, could turn into an issue. Hey, it sounds like fun, but at the same time, you're allowing people to live stream mass murders.
Right. If you can't manage it, then you can't do it.
Right.
Like that'd be my answer as a regular. It's like, well, you can't manage it, you can't do it.
Right.
You're obliged to manage it. You promise you'll manage it in your terms, and you're not doing it, so you can't do that new thing. You've got to, if you promise you're going to manage it, then you have to be able to manage it. If you can't manage it, you can't do it.
Right.
Turn it off, figure out a way to manage it, and then turn it back on.
Yeah. It's like a car manufacturer, like, yeah, we got this car that do 300 miles an hour, but sometimes there's issues with the brakes. It's like, wait, hold on, what was that last part?
Right, it's like Boeing.
300
it's
miles
like
an
Boeing
hour
right now. It's like everything that's going on with Boeing right now. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, it's actually kind of very directly analogous.
Right.
Not in so much as that Boeing's rolling out things promising new capabilities. They're just rolling out things that aren't necessarily safe to fly because they've captured the regulatory market and they prove their own planes they get to promise their own planes are good.
Yeah,
and
I think it was
the U.S. government's in a bind because they need Boeing to keep building F-22 Raptors and other shit. And if you're going to bankrupt their commercial side, it's going to have some damaging effect on their military side.
Yeah.
And so what do? It's a shitty situation. It's a sweet situation if you're a top exec at Boeing.
Yeah, I saw something that had to do with like some of the inspectors that were like either like former lobbyists or like former political people, basically.
Yeah, like there's a story. Like there's two new series of testimonies from two new whistleblowers in Boeing. One of the guys talking about how he's going down the assembly line, and there's guys jumping on a panel to get it to bend into the shape it's supposed to be,
nice. So
that they can weld or bolt it in place or whatever. So like the precision of their engineering is just going to shit. And
yeah, so something that was like some hidden camera footage that was supposedly from like a guy at one of the Boeing plants, like asking like other workers, like, "Hey, would you fly on one of these things?" So like, no. Apparently, I forget what it's like. Some new like trip booking site or whatever that you can actually. There's like options in there to pick like to either select or like deselect like certain airplanes that you don't want to have as your flight option.
I saw like just a snippet from I think it was a United exec. He was losing his shit. Like he was trying to like spin it as best he could of like no, these planes are like our engineers and our mechanics go over these planes head to toe every day over and over again. Every time they take off and land, our engineers and our mechanics are checking to make sure these planes are safe. Which really, it's like the whole thing is like nobody wants to fly in your planes because like 90% of your fleet is Boeing planes. Now, there's like only two models apparently that are the big concerns that all the whistleblowing's on. It's the 777 and the 787. And so like there's tons of 737s that have been around for 20 years that are perfectly fine. And like 767s and stuff like that. It's just the two, at least that's the two that have had the most conversation about it in the last couple months or whatever. But, people are like, I don't want to fly United because most of United planes are Boeings.
Yeah.
I don't want to fly them anymore because it's not United's fault per se, but they bought shitty planes. And I mean, that's good market. That's market at work. Comes out that you're putting a bad product on the line. It's not United's fault per se. Well, it is. They bought a bad plane and they're suffering the consequences.
I mean, some of it's not the uncommon practice of, giant assembly plants just trying to crank out more.
Sure. I mean, it's a profit issue. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a profit issue for sure. And I don't like, and I guess this is where it gets weird it's like, in like the very true, like free marketness of me. It's like, well, let a couple of Boeing planes hit the ground and a lot of people die and Boeing's going to figure it out real fast or Boeing's going to stop making planes. Somebody else is going to come on the market and make planes that don't fall out of the sky. But I understand the premise of like we could, there are things that we can put in place that could stop that from happening. But what I guess that's how do I word this? Like that's kind of the two-sided issue that I have with some of the regulatory state and the way it works. It's like, well, the regulatory state, has kept Boeing alive despite the fact that they've been making shitty planes for a long time. Because they've been guaranteeing their work, even though they haven't actually been checking it because they don't have the ability to check it in X, Y, and Z. And so it becomes an issue of, well, they told us it was good, so we bought the plane. That's United's argument, They said it was good, and it was checked off by the FAA that it's a proper design, and they built it correctly and all that stuff, so we bought the plane. But it's like, well, it would have been, this issue would have come to light quicker if there was more onus on United to put more energy and effort into searching out the planes they're buying. Because right now they just buy whatever Boeing puts out because it's partially one of the few options they have.
Yeah. So
we got Airbus and Boeing. And Airbus is a European manufacturer.
Yeah. There's
only one U.S. commercial plane manufacturer. And so it's like, well, a more free market system would be like, well, it's on United and Delta and Southwest and everybody to, buy planes that fly. Because if you buy planes that don't fly, you're not going to have customers after one of them doesn't.
Yeah.
And so like, but then that pressure that all these airlines have to make sure that they're buying good planes would then put pressure on Boeing to make good planes. But somehow Boeing has not had the pressure to make good planes in the last 20, 30 years.
And I think a lot of those, you pretty much like order a plane like 2 years in advance.
I agree, but that's right. But it's like, okay, that's another issue with the market. It's like, well, why isn't there other manufacturers in play? Because if there's a 3-year wait list to get a plane that is apparently not that good, why isn't there somebody else making planes?
Like you said, some planes are, they run them for 15, 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying,
I don't know how often they're actually decommissioning them.
But I'm just saying, like, if you're, I understand it's a high dollar item. It narrows the ability for competitors to come in just because it is a high dollar item.
Yeah.
It cost. I don't know what do you think a Boeing 737 costs? $10 million, $15 million minimum.
Probably more than that.
Yeah,
but I think like some of those, like luxury like Learjets are that price.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what they go for. Right. They do commercials on NBC all the time. You figure they'd put a price on there. MSRP $74 million. Which goes back to that premise that I like to joke about. It's like, why does Boeing do ads on NBC? So they don't run this story. And actually, now that I think about it, I haven't seen a Boeing ad on NBC News in a while. It's all drug company ads. And so maybe this is an old story. It's just now coming out because Boeing quit buying those ad spaces. Anyway, like a more natural market, even with a high dollar item like this, would encourage, like in the situation that we are currently in, it would encourage people with money to start a new company that builds airplanes. It would be a difficult, highly risky task to undertake, but the Elon Musk and the Bezos of the world, they could start a new airplane company. They have the money to do it. There's obviously a market for it if you can make good planes. So why isn't that happening? What do you see?
It's kind of half grayed out, but I think I see is 787-8, $248 million.
Okay. $250 million.
737 MAX 10, $134 million.
All right. So, you're thinking, like, if you were to start manufacturing planes to the level that you would need to compete in that market, you're probably talking like a $10 to $20 billion investment to get a factory, to get your first run of parts, to get a set of employees, to get the engineers, to get the designs, to get the first couple planes off the line, to see if you can even compete in the market. That's a big step. That's a hard one to do. But there's obviously people out there with that kind of money. Elon, I'm looking at you. Take the risk. Make an airplane company. He's already said he wouldn't.
Not, or
yeah, he was talking about. Rogan was talking about like how could you make an electric motor, like an electric engine to run a plane? And like Elon was like, yeah, that's possible. It's not worth it. Like, it's just not worth it.
I'd say the batteries would take up a shit ton of weight.
Right. You know, it's like there's no real, like there's no combination of things that would make it a really functional airplane. It's basically kind of what he says. Like, it would work and you could do it. It just wouldn't be useful.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm looking at him and just make a regular airplane. I don't care. I mean, I'm serious. Like, what?
Still want to be electric?
I don't know. I would like it to fly. I would like it to not be, to have concerns about it falling out of the sky, or at least not as often as we are currently on the Boeing situation. The problem is, I mean, I don't know. The problem to me seems the lack of competition. Boeing has been bailed out multiple times by the U.S. government on their commercial side. They're obviously highly dependent, and inversely, the U.S. government is highly dependent on Boeing for what they make on the military side. And so I don't like it's a problematic relationship at large. If Boeing wants to go into just military manufacturing and then those contracts and billions of dollars can get passed back and forth like they do, fine, get them out of the commercial market. We need like the idea that, you know, the idea that it's that there's that you can't help but have a pause if you're the U.S., like if you're the Department of Justice right now on how you're dealing with Boeing. You have to pause for a second and go, what's this do to our military aspects? Like I guarantee there's people in the Pentagon that are going to the Department of Justice like, you cannot kill them. If you kill them, we have $15 billion in orders for, you know, fighter jets and helicopters, right, that they're not going to be able to fill, and we've already paid for it or something like that. And so it's like it's a weird spot to put the negotiation in. It's like, well, what's Boeing's incentive to bother fixing it if the U.S. government can't really do anything to them? Right. It's a bad spot that we put ourselves in as a country with our relationship with Boeing. And that goes. I mean, I'm sure there's a list of other companies that could go on that list. It's not just Boeing exclusively. It's just that's the topic right now. Right. Mayor Jacobs is running into more bullshit with his growth whatever plan. Kim Frazier is not having it. I want to snap that shit in a circle. And Kim Frazier's.
I don't think it was quite that tone. But
she's not having it. Like, she's basically like the argument is that, you know, some of it's procedural issues that she's taken with it. It's like, you know, you have this big long thing that has a bunch of public input stuff, but it doesn't come to county commission until it's done. So county commission gets no input on it. You know, and then Hansen had his statement that came out. It's like, well, there were years of input on it, and as a commissioner, you can put input on it. As a citizen, you can put input on it, whether you're a commissioner or not. But it's like, well, yeah, but all that input that was put in by the public doesn't seem to be significantly reflected in the actual plan. Like, there was a significant sum of the public input was very particular about keeping green space and holding on to, you know, more public spaces and this, that, and the other and stuff like that that doesn't seem to be reflected in the new plan. And so Kim's kind of thing, it's like, well, I got elected countywide as an at-large commissioner on my growth and policy development issues and how I see the problems and whatnot. That's what I got elected on. So I'm not going to just sign this because it went through this process.
Was that her main campaign or something?
Yeah. So I mean, that's like she has been a development not an anti-development act. That's not fair. Like a responsible development advocate for decades. Like, that's been her whole thing, and that was the majority of her campaign. She was like, she's Hardin Valley. You know, she's from Hardin Valley proper. And so she's been through the development psychosis.
I remember her being on PTA.
And so we'll see where it goes. You know, but she's not having, like, she's not going to sign it as is. She's going to put amendments on it, whether the mayor likes it or not.
The story I read didn't talk about, I guess, what amendments they were looking at adding. It was just like they were looking at the possibility of adding amendments to it.
I think she's gonna. We'll see what the county commission work session meeting on Monday is like. It will probably be a hot and raucous one because all the people that are against
Is
it
that
are
the
going to come
link
out
or the flyer you sent me? 'Cause I didn't really get.
Oh, that was a different one. I'll come back to that in a minute.
Okay, I didn't get the reference at all. I'm like, I'm missing something.
That's a funny one, yeah. But there's, so, Mayor Jacobs gets to flip over and take it, and he got to move to the next step, and the next step was immediately a pushback. He released a statement yesterday, apparently it was like an open letter, basically saying, county commission, don't stop what everybody wants or something like that. And it kind of reads like to me it reads like he's pretty sure he's got the 6 or 7 votes he needs to get it through commission, period. So basically it's like, he doesn't care about the 2 Democrats, obviously, but don't be like 2 or 3. Don't be the 2 or 3 that say no to it, even though it's going to happen anyway. It's kind of what the letter, like the body of the letter, really says. Just this is going to be a landmark piece of legislation, for lack of a better word, for Knox County, and you can have your name on it as a winner with me, or you can have your name on it as the loser saying no to me. But it's going to come through anyway, so you might as well say yes.
Yeah.
It was not worded that specifically, but that's kind of the take I took on it. All right, so the weird thing that I sent you on the screenshot of was where'd it go? Hello. What the hell? WVAR, that's the this one. Keep Knoxville charming. Sign the petition. So there's this new, crazy cool, really exciting apartment complex that this developer wants to build in a really weird, dumbass piece of land tucked into downtown. So I don't know if you're familiar. Like the way I figured out how to do it, how to figure out where it actually is if you're coming across the river on Henley Street, so you're going north on Chapman Highway, across the river. Did you ever take that right turn on, I think it's called not Wall Street. I think it's Hill Avenue. So you got the big church on the left.
All right.
So between Main Street, Cumberland.
So that first right, once you get over the bridge?
Yeah, once you get over the bridge, that first right, where it used to be the carousel.
Never knew where that was.
Okay. Well, the carousel's right there. If you stay on, if you take that right and stay on it.
It runs you into the City County building.
Right. You go underneath the footbridge for the City County building. It's the road that's between, when you go into the City County building from Main Street and you go through security and you go across that bridge inside, the road that's underneath you is that first road. So anyway, you take that right off of Henley Street and then that stop sign. And you can take that right on the stop sign, and there's that super steep road that drops down onto Stadium, Neyland Drive. Yeah. Basically, when you get to the bottom of that super steep road, there's a little parking lot right on the right side of that road. So, it goes down and it turns right to merge into Neyland.
Right.
Well, if you turn right 5 feet sooner, it goes into this little tiny parking lot. And that's where this piece of property is that they're going to squeeze this building into.
It looks pretty big.
It is. It's 17 stories. Depending on which side you're standing on. That's the fun part about it. I think it's really cool. I think it's a really cool concept. So, from Neyland, it is 17 stories. From Wall or Hill Avenue or whatever it is on the top of the hill that we were just explaining what it is, It's 6 stories.
Okay.
Because the hill is that steep and that tall right there.
Right.
And actually what it is the front of the building is 6 stories. And so it's basically that whole block is going to get eaten up by it. But the first 4 or 5 floors on the lower level, on the lower entrance, are going to be a parking garage for the tenants. And then it's 12 stories of apartments. Probably pretty nice apartments with some beautiful riverfront views. And so, just like any cool development coming to Knoxville, somebody builds a website, says, sign the petition to say no. And the fun thing about this is the city of Knoxville has you'll love this, certificate of, God damn it, what's the word? It's a certificate of compliance or something like that. And it's a certificate of design, I believe is the phrase. And so the city of Knoxville has design ordinances, like what you can and can't do in the design of your building in the city of Knoxville. And so other than that's what the meeting that was this week was the design ordinance committee, because there is an individual who was challenging that this design does not stay within ordinance. because the mass of a building can be considered, whatever the fuck that means, the mass of a building. It is a lot of building on a little piece of land, yes. And that's the argument that it violates the city's design ordinance. Everything else about this building is 100% within code. There is no...
I'd always heard that there's like a big cavern basically underneath Natelin. I remember hearing that years ago.
Uh-oh.
I don't think it was like an urban legend, but...
There used to be a bunch of bodies in there, but...
What?
Dr. Bass had some offices in there.
Oh.
Like, there's a whole... Like, he had a bunch of... Like, you know, in... you ever watch Bones, the Fox show?
Yeah.
Like, there's a bit their building that they work in the Jeffersonian or whatever. But there's a room in the building that's like a desk, and they always had... There was like a cardboard box, and they'd be pulling bones out and assembling them on this desk. But if you look up behind him in the room, it's all this shelving unit with all these boxes on it. Dr. Bass had one of those in the stadium.
Yeah.
There's just like shelving units with boxes of bones.
Right.
But anyway, so like everything else about this building was like there's no code violations. They're not asking for any variance, nothing like that. It's literally one of them is the people that live in the places that are currently nearby that are now going to lose their riverfront view are pissed, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But you know, tough tits. I don't know what to say about that. I don't know. Like I don't. You don't have exclusive rights to the view unless you. Like if you own waterfront property, sure. Like if like where it's not exactly apples to apples here, but like Calhoun's down there, which is literally on the water. It's on a pier in the water. Like if I owned a house that was right there, and Calhoun's got some weird permission to build a pier in front of my house to put a restaurant in, but I own the land. Like I owned a house on the land that came up to the water, I'd be pissed off that I lost my waterfront view.
Yeah.
Because I bought the waterfront piece of property. These people don't have waterfront property. They just had property that was in a weird spot that made it unlikely that anybody would build between them and the water.
Well, looks like there's some big building next to it. I don't know what kind of building
That's part
is.
of it.
Ah.
Yeah, this right here is the 6-story front half of the building. And then this is the white one is the 17-story part.
Huh.
And so some of it, like on Hill Avenue or whatever, might be some retail, street level, whatever, but then just tons of apartments.
And I could see pushback on something that large, that close to downtown.
Downtown has zero height requirements or exclusions.
That's cool.
I'm just saying, like it's within code. They're not they're not violating anything within. Like,
I'm just saying in general. I could see some public pushback from something that large.
I mean, I got a better solution. You ready?
What is it?
Move this over like a quarter mile and tear down the city county building and build it there, and then move the city county services somewhere else. Boom! Everybody wins.
You really just want to get rid of the city county building.
I don't mind the building. The building's actually kind of cool.
You just don't like them being.
It needs
there
a paint
for some
job
reason.
or something. They need to freshen it up.
It's mirrored glass. Most of it.
But in concrete, like there's tons of concrete on that. Like there's tons of visible concrete of that building.
I see a hell of a lot more just like shiny glass.
I don't know. It's a cool shaped building. I'm not mad at the building for existing. I just like to me. It seems like it's the same thing. I'm mad about Knox County's got. Like I get part of it because it was cheap. I think one of them was actually reclaimed in a tax thing. But like they like just it. I don't know. It seems weird to me. Like I don't like the Knox County schools moved to that TVA tower. It doesn't make sense to me. Like I like that Knox County Schools got out of the AJ building. Not that anybody's ever going to actually do anything in that fucking building, for Christ's sake. It's just going to continue to be what we want to do. We need a bigger tax increment financing, or we need more pilot money, or we can't figure out how to do this.
Give us some more time to.
I do know the city's pissed about it. The city's. I can't remember who was talking about it a couple weeks ago in the city council meeting. It was like, if whoever doesn't do something soon, we're taking away all our.
Yeah, I think they'd already served them papers that basically they had like
started or
30
days back. Yeah,
yeah,
good, get it. I like it. We gave you a deal. Fucking do it.
Right.
But I don't know. Like you know, if Knoxville was a big city where the city was sprawling and blah 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 blah, then yeah, the city services offices would be somewhere in the city, in the heart of the city. But to me, like Knoxville is spread out enough. Like I mean, you could move it. Like you can move it down to the south side. You want to talk about reincorporating the south side, like the south of the river, and making it more part of the city of Knoxville. Move all those city services built down there on Moody. You know, like that whole stretch, all those strip malls and stuff that are in there, that Kroger, where that old 5 and Dime is, what Sono Pride building down there. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't think so.
Moody and,
Right.
and Chapman, like that one on the corner. There's a 5 and Dime. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like there's a Walgreens, there's a gas station. I can't remember what's on the other corner, and then there's one it used to be a Dollar General or something like that.
There's like a little like American flea market in there.
Yeah, that kind of shit. You know, take all those properties and turn that into city county building. That'll get the south side of Knoxville back incorporated as part of the city.
It's eminent domain.
It's probably cheap. It'd be cheaper than it would be less than
I thought you liked businesses.
It would be less than what you could sell. You buy it at market. Buy it at free market. Buy it at market value. It would be significantly less than what you could sell the property that the city county building is sitting on right now for.
I mean, I'd say there's a good bit of landowners and business owners in South Knoxville that are like, if we hold on this a little bit longer, our property values could go up even more if they start to do more, which they supposedly are doing more development.
Kern's supposed to finally be getting open, that Kern's Bakery thing.
Yeah.
Saw some stuff about it getting going. Good on him. I mean, it's like there's a lot of stuff going on in the city of Knoxville, which is why they needed to shut the fuck up and build this giant-ass apartment complex. I'm sorry. Like, it's not super cool looking, but it's not super ugly.
I mean, if it was that big and it was going to be affordable, I could get a little bit more behind it, but those are probably going to be at least $2,000
Well, I mean,
a month.
the problem I have with this is it'll end up be students, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know if you can write that in and be like, okay, we'll let you build this thing, but you're not allowed to have UT students out there.
Why?
Huh?
Why would they say something like that? Huh?
I don't know. I'm just tired of more like the students take over. Like that's part of the. I think that's part of the issue we have as a greater community here is that we have this massive university that used to dominate the politics of this town, and is still trying to, but it does functionally dominate a lot of things that go on in the city. Like literally, I was trying to plan our Holleroo. We started talking about our October event. We're going to do another version of Holleroo in October. So I call up special events. I'm like, hey, we haven't even got this one off yet. This might be a disaster, but we're talking about doing another one in the fall. I want to go ahead and get a date on the books. Well, do not even request anything that has a home game attached to it. You will get 0 city services if it's a UT home game.
What city services did you guys get this time?
KPD, EMS, traffic and engineering, sanitation, and I'm sorry, somebody else I'm blanking out on. Fire department kind of poked their head in, but they didn't actually stay for the day.
Yeah. Huh.
I mean, we had to pay EMS out of pocket. We had to pay the KPD to be there out of pocket. Like, we had to pay for them. They were all off-duty, quote-unquote, officers who were getting paid to look like they were on duty, basically.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I get it. I'm good with it. I'm more or less good with it. But, but basically, like, every off-duty officer in KPD will be working either in overtime hours for KPD or in an off-duty role at whatever.
Right.
And so you cannot request. I mean, they said you cannot do a special event on a home game. Full stop. It's like, well, that sucks. Especially with the way the schedule worked out this year. Like October is, I think October's got 5. Yeah, October's got 5 Saturdays. The first one is an away game, and then it's home bye week. So it's either do it that first weekend, which is a little too early for what we wanted to do, or do it that last weekend, which is the bye week. But everybody is doing everything on bye weeks.
All right.
Like every other event that's possible is going to be going on.
That would be close to Halloween, too.
Yeah, well, that's kind of we want it to be close to Halloween.
Yeah.
But also, there's a lot of people that do a lot of Halloween stuff, too. And so our goal is to be the biggest and coolest Halloween thing in town, that everybody shows up to our Halloween thing instead of other people's Halloween thing. That's the plan. But I digress. My point in that is that the university still dominates city functions. Insofar as the university has an event, nobody else in town is allowed to have an event because the university needs all the city services to do their event. Granted, it's the biggest event we ever do. Maybe Boomsday was bigger. Boomsday was probably bigger.
Probably. A little bit.
Yeah. Especially when they lined up Boomsday with home game weekends and all that kind of crazy shit for opening weekends. It's a good time. Those last couple were awesome. Crazy ass weekends.
Yeah.
but again, that's my point being is that like I don't want like I'm not opposed to having I mean it's open market whether you're a student or a young professional or an old family or whatever. If you want to live in that apartment and you can afford it, get the apartment. I don't care. But the two giant ass apartment complexes they built in the old Baptist Hospital property were designed and built and sold as student housing. Not for the university proper, it's private, but they were designed targeting students.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are other people who live in this fucking town. And that we don't necessarily want to live with a bunch of students. I don't care if a student lives next door in an apartment complex, as long as they're a decent neighbor. But if you're trying to sell it to students, all the neighbors are going to be students except for a handful. They're like, fuck it, I'll deal with the kids. And that sucks. I don't mean that's just a shitty situation. But
what's a shitty situation? That they're having to deal with the students?
I'm confused here. If I wanted to live in this cool new apartment complex that's coming in down here,
right,
and it's targeted to students, even though I'm not a student, I could still rent it, but then I'd have to live with a bunch of UT students, and I don't want to live with a bunch. Like, I would like, it's like, forget about like loud noise, party mess bullshit of students. Like, it's more about like, I would like to live in a place where I have neighbors that stick around for a couple of years.
I would say a good majority of apartment complexes are pretty well filled up with kids that are in college or just students.
I mean, certainly downtown apartment complex, I would agree with that.
Right, even here out west.
I wouldn't think it's a majority of tenants in most apartment complexes.
Maybe not a majority of them, but a good chunk.
I don't know. I don't know.
I think with the availability of student housing, there's a lot of students.
Sure, they're spread out all over the place for sure. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying, like, there's something to me about like I have zero desire to ever live in an apartment ever again in my fucking life. Don't get me wrong, but there's something about having like some consistency in neighbors that students will never do. If you have a student living next door, let me clarify what I'm trying to get here. Yes, I agree that many apartment complexes have many students in them spread around the city, but if there's 5 or 6 units that have students in it of 100 units in a building, they cycle in and out. Well, the next tenant in there may not be a student, and that tenant may stay for 4 or 5 years, or 6 or 10 years, or whatever. It may be a long-term tenant that replaces the student, or somebody that's been here for 10 years leaves and the student replaces them for a year or two, like that. Where if you're in a building that is mostly students, every year or two you're going to have huge turnover in your neighbors. So there's no real neighbor, there's no community to it if you're not leaving, coming and going with them. It's kind of the point I'm getting at.
You think there's that much like neighborliness going on in apartment complexes as it is?
I don't know, maybe a little bit. I mean, especially if it's at a walking distance and everybody's walking in and out of town or something.
Maybe your direct neighbor, but I don't know.
Anyway, I think it would be a bummer if they maybe I'll rephrase my original statement. I think it would be a bummer if it was made to be student housing. Does that make that better?
I mean, maybe they're more to your point, and they're trying to focus all of that whole mess into a couple locales.
Yeah. Well, I want them to build. I don't know. I don't care. I just say I don't like. I joked with Scott. I text Scott. I was like, Scott, I really want to be at that meeting because I want to be the one that goes, yes, build it. Why? Because you got to fucking start building shit, guys. What are we doing? It's not that ugly. Like, I don't know. It's just we're never going to go anywhere if it's this NIMBY thing that we've talked about 1,000 times.
Right.
Yes, I agree. Because again, I guess my point is like I made the argument. It's like, well, if you're pro-growth, but not in my backyard, then you have to go and support things that aren't in your backyard getting built, so they don't build it in your backyard. You need to go to those meetings and be like, yes. Because it's the only people that ever go are the people that are like, no,
I totally build it here. Like, oh, do you live in the area? Hell no.
No, I don't.
I live way away from that, but please build it here.
No, I mean, yeah, come on. You do a little bit of take a few notes, just be like, call up Henson Sale and be like, give me the stats real quick, buddy. And it's like, according to the Knoxville Association of Realtors, over the next 20 years, we're going to have demand for 5,000 more housing units. And at the current pace, we're only going to have 200 units built in that time frame. And we need to encourage these growths so that we have places for people to move into and, quit sprawling out into the neighboring counties and, help make it a cool downtown, vibrant, urban center, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. How does this affect you directly? It doesn't have to affect me directly. I'm a voting, whatever, I'm a constituent of the city of Knoxville. That's how it affects me directly. Plus, in the very selfish version of it, the more people that live in the city proper, the more people that I can possibly sell my products to and sell my services to, and I want to make more money. Because I need to make more money because it's getting more expensive to live around here, and I haven't inflated my prices as much as I guess I should have. I suck at this game, apparently. Like, if inflation was coming, I should have doubled my price on everything and be like, yeah, that's inflation.
All right.
Has nothing to do with me.
It's not us, guys.
And then,
talk to your local representative.
Yeah. But yeah, it's that illusion of choice thing, but whatever. It's the same illusion of choice we have in voting as we do in voting with our dollars as in voting with our ballots. But old Marcia came up on my Breaking Points podcast. Apparently, she is anti whatever the case was that clarified the legality of birth control. And I think it's to defend Marcia for just a second, just a pinch. This is I don't know that she believes this, but at least my interpretation of it is that there is a problem with some very particular. There's a handful, especially reproductive issues, apparently, that we decided that the Supreme Court is the one that's going to make the decision instead of the United States Congress making a law. And so basically, as I understand it, I don't remember the name of the case, but the case that was brought before on the birth control issue, the Supreme Court at the time sided with the ability that decided that we should have birth control available to the public. And instead of, and at least on a philosophical level, and again, I'm not gonna speak for Marcia because I don't think she thinks it this way, but there is part of me on a philosophical level that gets it. It's like this: we have too many things that have been Supreme Court decisions that if the court changes, like we saw in the last couple of years, these things can change like that with no real public input. Because I think that like the Dobbs decision flipped over Roe v. Wade only because the court changed, not because the public sentiment changed, not because anything, just because Trump was dumb enough to put justices on that the evangelicals told him to put on, and then they got the case to do it, and they overturned Roe v. Wade. Now, to me, what should have happened is the United States Congress should have put a law in place stating what the law of the land is instead of it hinging on a court case. And I agree with that premise on IVF as well as birth control.
Well, those things only go to court because there is a law in place that gets challenged, and then that law gets challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court. But, yes, they are making the decision on, I guess, they get the semi-final state.
They're making the decision on, does this law that was applied originally actually apply here? Which I think the birth control one specifically was.
Yeah, I think the one
there was a law precluding certain items from being available to the public on the market or to be available through prescription or whatever it was, and the doctor had prescribed this birth control product to a lady, and the state that she was in alleged that was banned by this law, and it didn't clearly state, I don't know if it was one of those where it was like,
yeah, I think this has to do with essentially mailing out
right
contraceptive.
Right, and so it's like that whole back and forth kind of little thing, and so the Supreme Court was clarifying whether that law that existed applied to this particular item or not, or group of items or not. Not that the law was explicitly about this group of items. It was just like, well, the DA's interpretation is what it was, while the Supreme Court's interpretation is that it wasn't.
Yeah.
So then, to me, that says that law doesn't exist. But they never corrected the original law to clarify
it. Well, exists. I mean, there's just little caveats that a good lawyer can find in a case. Like, well, it says this, this, and this, but it doesn't quite say this.
Correct.
So I think that...
So it should be clarified in law so that it doesn't hinge on, okay, well, I have a different judge now and an exact replica of the original case, but with a different judge, and I'm going to get a different result. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's possible.
It's not possible. It happens all the time, and that should be corrected.
I mean, it's possible just depending on a judge's legal opinion of the way law is interpreted.
Sure, but that's what my point is that then it should be then the best effort should be made to correct the original law so that it doesn't have as much interpretation required. And we just leave them, and we just leave them, and we just leave them. That's the Roe v. Wade thing. Like, realistically, Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, but it wasn't a law. It was just the understanding that you were allowed to do this, this, and this, and if you got in trouble for it, we had precedent in the Supreme Court that said you're not actually going to go to jail for it, or whatever the crime that could have been applied was. And so instead of saying, okay, well, let's put a law in place that makes it not about the Supreme Court, but about the law that matches what the Supreme Court decided on this. So then, 50 fucking years later, we get a couple of changes in the court, and all of a sudden this thing gets tossed out. And huge political upheaval for it. Best gift the Democrats ever got. But, like that to me is the failure in the system to me, is that we just leave them there. We leave them as a major Supreme Court decision, like little stuff, whatever. It doesn't have to be that big a deal. But if it's a major decision, I think Roe v. Wade being one, I think,
So a lot of people just had viewed Roe v. Wade as settled law.
Right.
They were like, but nobody's going to try to
But instead of actually settling the law to match what the Supreme Court said, they just left it.
Right.
Now, had it been settled, then it would be the law, not
there was
not the presumption of this isn't going to change.
There was a good bit of politicians that never wanted to wade back into that.
I'm sure. It's the worst thing. It is worst thing that ever happened to Republicans running for office right now. Any Republican on any level, whether you have anything to do with abortion or not. It's bad for school board members running for
not
office.
All, no.
For a lot. I mean,
there's a good portion, I'd say 30 to 40% that see it as a good thing. Yeah, maybe not. A good solid 30%.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing that it's been codified and that's.
But I'd say there's a good 20, 30% that would have voted for you, that this is a big enough issue that they can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now we're at 60%. So there's only 40% left that you have to get most of to win.
Right.
And that's not including the Democrats in your district. So I think it's a bigger issue. I think it's a huge issue. I think it's a massive issue politically for most constituencies.
They wouldn't have done it if there wasn't that pressure from constituents. I mean, this wasn't all just straight lobbyists that wanted this to get overturned. I mean, there was a lot of constituents that wanted this.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I mean, sure. Yes, there were a lot of constituents that wanted it to. Was that pressure that made it happen?
It was celebrated by some.
Celebrated by a lot, but I don't think that pressure is. I truly think it was Trump was dumb enough to do it. Like Trump didn't have the foresight to see. Like I truly think it is a mistake of Trump's hubris.
I don't want to give him any credible or any credit for intelligence, I guess, but
I will. I give him a lot of credit for being pretty smart on a lot of things.
But I don't think that he chose the justices simply on an abortion-related thing. He picked those judges because they could change a lot of laws.
But they were also on a list of judges that were approved by. I mean, there was a list of judges approved by some of his evangelical donors and whatever you want to call them.
Right.
And I mean, hell, he's been.
But I don't think it was solely an abortion-related issue.
I'm not going to say.
Hey, we're bringing these in. We're going to be able to overturn Roe v. Wade.
I don't know. You got to.
We're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. We're going to be able to do this, 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 and this.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what the true reason why he picked the couple that he picked when he got him picked. But he certainly put it in his back pocket and said, "I won the Roe v. Wade thing." Remember? And now he's trying to figure out how to dance the middle ground, like real hard, because it's not a good political issue for him.
I don't remember the exact quote, but Ginsburg had a quote that was talking about, when the court leans, it's not the Supreme Court's kind of like a pendulum, that if it leans hard enough one way, it'll eventually start leaning back the other direction. Because they had years, I guess it was like the Warren Court maybe, that was considered more liberal. I think that's when you had Roe v. Wade, like Clean Water Act and some other more quote-unquote liberal laws and legislation that was passed.
I mean, I think your elected officials, you get elected officials to follow, and then it's just a timing game of when you get to replace justices.
Right.
Because
and we'll have House and Senate that flip-flops back and forth. Yeah. Definitely happens. I think the most recent Supreme Court, I've listened to a little bit on it. But I think it has to do with like mailing out. I think this may just be like mifepristone, which apparently it's been on the market for years and considered safe. And I think some of the pushback is saying, this could be unsafe. And it's like, this has been prescribed and on the market and proven safe for like 40 or 50 years or whatever. So there was one really cool podcast to listen to that like followed the trail of, it was within the first like 6 months to a year of the Ukraine war. But it was people trying to get mifepristone into Ukraine.
Yeah, we talked about this.
Did we?
Yeah. You need to get HBO Max, and you need to watch what is it called? The Realm? It is the funniest, craziest, mostly based on true events, but it's like, you ever see you saw a movie Waiting, right?
Saw what?
Waiting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, so like it's a restaurant staff movie, whatever, which freaked a lot of people out that have never worked in restaurants. Those of us that did work in restaurants.
Wait, do they really do that?
And it's like, yes, actually, every story, like every little, like all the terrible parts of that movie are true, but over the span of a million restaurants over 50 years. Like, it's not like every restaurant does that every night.
Right.
The movie makes it feel like it's all the time. That's what this show is. It's about, like, dictators and stuff like that, and some of the crazy shit that dictators do. And so it's like every crazy thing a dictator did kind of weaseled into this one dictator character over this weird, like, Eastern European nation. It's like a fictional nation or whatever. Mm-hmm. It is hilarious and crazy and scary because it's true. It's just fictionally true. Like, it's just fictionalized version of true stories.
Right.
It's amazing. It's a really good show. I can't remember who the lead in it. It's an actress lady, and she is amazing. HBO Max. Damn it, what's the name of the show? It's going to drive me crazy now. I need to know the name of the show. I can't
remember we were talking about earlier.
The Regime? Is that what it was?
Maybe. We were talking about like the cost of something costing more than it was actually worth.
Kate Winslet.
Yeah, I think I may have heard a little bit about this.
There's a podcast about it too. Or there's a podcast. It's a weird thing. I've listened to part of it, but I haven't listened to the whole thing yet.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then also there's Apple Plus has a Benjamin Franklin series with Michael Douglas as Benjamin Franklin. I started watching that this week. It's pretty good.
Michael Douglas as Benjamin Franklin. Huh?
It works. It does.
Apparently he was quite the ladies' man. Benjamin Franklin. Oh yeah.
Like it's like the so far the series is based on his time in France during the Revolution.
Yeah.
Trying to officially advocate for France's intervention in the war. And it's kind of creepy. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, oh, yeah, that sounds like stuff that we're doing now or that's being done now, and, like, this, that, and the other.
We like to do shit in cycles.
Yeah. Oh. But, yeah, it works. Like, the hair and makeup and stuff like that did a really good job. Like, it's, like, he's not as big as I imagine Ben Franklin to be. Like, Ben Franklin always had, like, a big old pot belly to me.
Right.
Michael Douglas does not carry that part around.
That was just how it was always portrayed in photos, which I don't know if all of those were just older paintings and whatnot.
Yeah.
Caricatures of him. Did you ever watch John Adams series with Paul Giamatti?
I think I did. It's been a while.
It was good. It was a good series.
I do like. I've decided that I'd like these, like, docudramas. I guess what they're called.
Yeah.
I like a lot. I like a lot of them. And now I got to go do some research on the Benjamin Franklin one because there's a couple little bits in there that I'm like,
was that a thing?
Was that real or was that did they? I don't remember.
Right.
So, because apparently, and I think this part is, I'm pretty sure this part is real. Is his son was imprisoned by the Continental Congress as a traitor to the United States because his son was a loyalist.
Huh.
And so, like, during the war proper, Benjamin Franklin's kid's in jail for being basically a British sympathizer, for lack of a better word.
Turncoat.
And his grandson, Temple, went on the trip to France with him and all this kind of stuff. It's pretty interesting because there's a little bit of relationship issue there. It's like, you put my dad in jail. Well, it's my son. It's like, yeah, it's a tough one. But it's a really good series. You should check it out. But you could suck it, keep Knoxville charming. I'm going to advocate against you. Come on my show. We'll talk about it. I don't really give a shit what you have to say because we need housing for people badly. And if we keep folding over every time somebody doesn't like it or loses their view, I don't know. Like, again, that goes back to my age-old argument. We don't actually want growth. But we won't elect people that, like, I kind of want to. This is maybe this is a little back pocket goal I might start working on. I kind of want to be the Eric Warder of chaos. Like, I want to go find some candidates that run on platforms that I believe to be true and watch them lose. Watch them lose badly. Even though their actual platform is what the people actually want. Because people are so confused about what they actually are saying and doing with their electoral actions. Because, like, Michelle Ivester, the Old North Knox lady, she's the head of the Old North Knox, or not Old North Knox, excuse me, the Oakwood Lincoln Park Neighborhood Association. Met with her a couple times for business purposes or whatever. I talked to her about different stuff, and she understands who I am in the podcast, and she knows that I work with Scott and Jesse, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't, like, that was when that weird little apartment complex was kind of get shoved in there on Chickamauga, which is part of her neighborhood, and they actively fought against it and made some, like, well, it's a water issue and stuff like that, so you don't want an apartment complex in your neighborhood. Just fucking say it. Yeah, but we want responsible growth. Well, responsible growth to me is it's just a cop out of not in my backyard. Responsible growth is not here. Here is perfect. Don't touch it. Do it over there. Don't care where over there is. And then over there says, well, here is perfect. Do it over there.
Right.
And if that's the concept that we're living in, then we don't actually want growth. And if we don't actually want growth, then we need to elect people like these Farragut aldermen who are like, fuck you, we're going to do it our way. And I'm going to say no to your stupid growth plan. And then one of my boys is going to flip and we're going to start over and you're going to get it anyway and blah, 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 blah. But, I'll give Farragut credit. At least they're up front. Like, no, we're going to do everything we can to slow it down. To keep it slow, to keep it rural, to keep it low. We're not building a bunch of high-rises out here. We're going to figure out how to get as much traffic out of here as we can. And, we're going to try to keep, everything spaced out and comfortable and whatever. That's Farragut's mission as a community. Do it to it. You elect the people to do that? Get on it.
I wonder if everybody's trying to throw fucking Turkey Creek back in Farragut's face. They're like, we don't want all this growth and all this traffic, but hey, will you bring, like, all of West Knoxville and put it in, like, a 3-block area?
I don't fucking know. I don't understand what they want anyway. Like, and again, it's like...
Well, I guess it's like right on the edge of Knoxville and Farragut.
I don't know where the Farragut Township starts and ends. I mean, if it's Watt Road to Campbell Station?
I mean, it's pretty much... if you're going west... It's almost right there at, like, Lovell Road and Kingston Pike, I think, is where that first, like, blue sign says down to Farragut.
Right, but is it where it is? Okay, so if Watt Road...
But to get to Turkey Creek, you've got to take a right there and then kind of take a left going towards west.
Watt Road, Lovell Road, right?
Right.
So if Lovell Road is the beginning of Farragut on that side?
Kind of, but then Lovell Road, tees up with Kingston Pike, but then it starts kind of veering to the right, going towards, like, Hardin Valley.
Right, but where does the Farragut line? Where's the north line of the Farragut Township of Farragut?
No idea.
Like, is it Interstate 40?
What the fuck did I just say? I don't know.
I know you don't know. I'm trying to. I'm throwing out ideas of what it could be, not what you know it isn't, because I know you don't know it. Say, could it be Interstate 40? Could it be whatever that weird little road is that Topgolf is on?
I wouldn't think so.
Like, I would think it's 40, logically. And so, to me, I believe that Turkey Creek is inside the township of Farragut. Let me see if I can find us a map, since we got the interwebs. Map. Oh. Let's hit this way. Boundary lines
Farragut
for
Township.
Farragut Township. AAS maps on the Farragut official website. Does it say, where's my adopt a stream WFL boundary town of Farragut? What the fuck? I don't care about it. Okay. So half of Turkey Creek is in the township. So it looks like Concord Road, and then it bumps actually east of Concord Road and Watt Road. Not Watt Road, Lovell Road. And then cuts across on the south side of Turkey Creek until you get to like halfway down. And then Turkey Creek gets swallowed up in it. So half of Turkey Creek is and half isn't.
So you split it 50-50 for the proceeds, for the tax proceeds, probably.
I guess. So, and then all the way out to Watt Road. So it's basically 40 from Watt Road to Lovell Road to the river.
Yeah.
More or less. So, yeah.
I don't know why I just thought about that. And they're like, oh, we need this growth. We want more. It's like, wait, you guys have Turkey Creek.
I mean, I guess the question to me, and I've asked this question 1,000 times for years now, the question to me is if we actually don't want growth, which I don't think we do. I mean, I think the business owner in me does. I think the homeowner in me, I like it because it brings my home value up, but I don't like it because it makes it less comfortable to live here. It's too loud. There's too much shit going on all the time. That's not what I want. But, I don't know, whatever. If we're electing people on the growth conversation, if growth policy is our issue when we're voting, what powers does the Knox County government or the city of Knoxville government have to limit growth?
Zoning ordinances.
I agree. Taxes. But the problem with that is, I mean, the zoning ordinances, like ordinances, building permits and stuff like that, building code and stuff like that. You know, you put a bunch of really complicated and expensive building code into place and grandfather everybody that's already here in. So make it really hard for new buildings to get built and expensive for really new buildings to get built.
I'm trying to remember like where the hell it's supposed to be, but apparently in the negotiations for modeling and building Turkey Creek, since that was, I don't know if it was quite protected wetland, but it was considered wetlands. So they actually had to recreate the wetlands that they took away by building Turkey Creek, and they put them somewhere else and like built a wetland in another area. I remember hearing that story years ago. Because right as you turn onto it, if you look over to the right, it's a pretty swampy area. I think that's part of like the actual wetland that they didn't take, but apparently they cut into some of the wetland.
Yeah, I mean,
So I think I remember hearing that was like one of the big like hang-ups, I guess, of like Earth Fair moving there, because they're more Earth friendly. Earth is in their name,
right?
There's a thing they went into an area that used to be a wetland,
right? That's actually an interesting little doodad.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah, I watched the new last week tonight. It was interesting on Medicaid. Sadly, Tennessee got mentioned in there twice, at least.
What was it?
It was on, Medicaid.
Oh, that we don't have it? Or not the expanded version of it?
No, he was talking about a lot of people getting kicked off of it, but then Tennessee also got pointed out. I can't remember what we were talking about earlier, being like the cost of like running an agency to do this, costs more than, the benefits that are taken out of it.
Yeah. And
they mentioned Tennessee. I guess we started some kind of commission to go after people that were abusing Medicare. But the cost of it's like, $1.9 million or whatever. And like
only like $1 million getting stolen from Medicare in the process?
Well, it was like a couple $100,000 they were able to recoup, because you're recouping it from people that don't have much money anyway. That they wrote on that they were making, $25,000 when they were really making like $27,000, where $25,000 was the cutoff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they were also pointed out how a majority of the wastes and fraud is actually done at like kind of like the corporate level or doctors. I can't remember what state it was, but there was a couple families that a guy was even being like a total douche about it, doing a whole bunch of like inspirational things. Like
Billy Medicare, Billy.
Yeah, I guess he basically found like a bunch of names in a cemetery and were able to figure out that they weren't on like the death roll or whatever, and was just billing Medicaid over and over again for these people that were already dead, but I guess in the system they weren't quite considered death, or there wasn't a death certificate on file,
right?
So it never got flagged.
Damn.
It was just
that would be the more logical.
They were like, "Hey, let's go after these poor people." That's where all the Medicaid abuse is. And it's like, no, actually, a majority of the abuse is actually done on the opposite end of it.
Governor Lee signed a what was it? It was a very proud moment. It was like a responsible government. It's like a part of his responsible government initiative. Basically, he combined 2 state departments. So we have the Department of Special Needs, Special Services or whatever for disability services or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we have a Department of Elderly Services, and they're now one department because old people are the same as mentally handicapped people that are 35.
Cool.
And should be treated the same. Like, he was really proud of it. It's like, I don't know. Like, part of it I get because I would say I would be curious what the math is on how many people are on disability and elderly. I'm sure it's a high number. Of the percentage of people that are taking disability are also in the elderly category.
Yeah.
But there's a fuck ton of people that are getting disability that are not old.
All right. That's what they were talking about with the Medicaid. Because during, I guess, like a couple of years after COVID and everything, there were like federal laws in place that during the emergency that they declared was states couldn't kick people off Medicaid. But I guess, some of those rules were starting to lapse in the past year or so. So states they were talking, some states were up like 600%.
Right. As
far as like denials, basically.
I mean, they're so bad at keeping up with it because it's like, I still get, so for a minute we were on TennCare for the kids. We had so the state of Tennessee paid for both of our pregnancies and births. And the first couple of years of both of my kids' existence as far as medical needs. So we were inside the pay bracket and blah, 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 that we qualified for, the kids qualified, the pregnancy qualified for Medicare or for TennCare, as well as the kids qualified for TennCare for a couple of years. I've, since started making more money, I have private insurance, blah, blah, blah. We have canceled that at every year. They send me renewal reminders. And I read through it, and I'm not sure if I still have TennCare on my kids or not. Because it kind of reads like I have it, and they're just saying, hey, we're renewing, or it's time to renew. And I don't do anything, I don't fill anything out, and I read through the whole thing because it doesn't say, like, if you've gotten your own coverage in this period of time, fill this form out. It doesn't say anything about anything other than it's like it's time to renew. So did I have TennCare last year? Because I didn't think I did. Pretty sure I went through the process of canceling it when I got private insurance. But every year they keep sending me stuff. And they send me stuff throughout the year.
I think a lot of states started putting out, they showed one commercial, I guess, that Georgia was running that was like encouraging people to reach out to make sure you were still covered. They wanted people to basically reapply, I guess, just to make sure your information was up to date and everything. But it was this little talking peach. Of course, they were making fun of more of how come nobody's asking why the fuck there's a talking peach?
We're all so high right now. This peach is talking. I'm so high right now. Oh, happy 420, everybody! If you're listening to this on release date, it's 420. Do what you do for 420. Be safe. Go to eVape Lounge, eVapeLoungeKnox.com. You can go to all 3 locations. We have some sweet, sweet 420 specials for you. This episode is brought to you by eVape Lounge, eVapeLoungeKnox.com. Get high today. But I don't know. Yeah. I'm indifferent to 420. Central Cinema's got a really cool thing that they do.
Reefer Madness.
They do like an up all night. So their first movie starts at 4:20 this afternoon.
Damn.
And that movie is announced. I don't recall what that movie is, but it is a stoner movie. And then when that movie ends, they take a 30-minute break, and then they start another one. But they're not going to tell you what it is until they start it. And they will keep doing that until 7:30 Sunday morning.
Damn.
And so it's like a marathon of stoner movies that you could stay as long as you want. one ticket price gets you in the door, and you just stay and watch movies and probably fall asleep in the movie theater.
So let's say, do they have someone like counting how many people leave? And they get somebody else like, oh, we got 2 people leave. Okay, now there's 2 seats in there somewhere.
No, I know. I don't know.
I've never been in there. I don't know how big the place is.
I think it's like 80-something seats. It's pretty decent size. We'd been down there for a while before I actually went inside. And I don't know, like just something in me expected to be like janky ass, like cheap, like, Walmart projector on a 10-foot screen. No, it's a big screen. Like, it's a big, proper, like, it's not like a fucking, like some of these new giant whatevers that we have at the Pinnacle or whatever. But it is a good, like, it is a above average. I mean, it's an average movie theater, like the Windsong, which is now closed over there next to Lowe's. You know what I'm talking about?
I was wondering if that thing was still there or not.
Yeah. It's the same as that. It's not like super steep seating. Like it's a slow slope in seating, but it does raise as it goes back. It's not full stadium,
right,
where it's like steep, but it's a good incline from front to back, and they're proper like movie theater seats. They're not these new like reclining powered chair theater seats, but they're, the flip down, super thick padded, nice seats with the cup holder and the armrest and that whole thing. Like, it's a proper movie theater. Longest running movie theater in the state of Tennessee.
Nice.
And, they do all sorts of random shit. Like, it's fun. Like, they do some fun stuff there. Like, I haven't had the opportunity to partake in any of their fun stuff, but they do some fun. Like, they do a bunch of weird artsy shit too, but I apologize, weird's not the right word. They do a bunch of artsy movies and more art theater than like blockbuster or whatever, but they do blockbuster stuff too. Like, they've got here in a couple of weeks, they've got we have a Comic-Con or something coming to the Expo Center, it's either the Expo Center or the World's Fair.
Okay.
So it's Comic-Con. It's got all these like, no super movie stars that come, but you got a bunch of people that have played characters in a bunch of different comic and superhero related movies that come and do signings and whatever, all the different stuff that goes on at those dork expos. And they're doing an after party where they're showing, like, I think it's X-Men 2 from that series of X-Men, the 90s or the 90s and aughts X-Men series of movies. I guess it's probably the 2000s.
Yeah.
But they're showing that night, and then and then sometime in May they've got something Howell, some actor guy named something Howell, 3-name guy. He has a new movie coming out, and they're doing a special screening with a meet and greet with him because he's going to be in town for some other reason.
Nice.
And so they do a bunch of it's a bunch of neat stuff that they do movies stuff for. And they have 2 sweet-ass soapbox derby cars sitting in their window right now because those were our winners. Congratulations.
You did it.
Not Famous Racing. Check them out on Instagram. If you're into car stuff, it's funny. If you're not into car stuff, it's kind of weird. But he was our speed champion because he built like a proper tear shape, whatever.
Right. They get the graphite out for the axles and everything.
Yeah,
too.
like it was serious. Like it was a well-engineered vehicle. And then Else Brewing did a cool keg car, where it's an old wooden barrel that he cut up and put wheels on and stuff like that. It's cool.
Nice.
Pretty cool looking car. We had some great. Like the Derby teams were just fantastic at large because like I've never administered a soapbox derby before. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I tried to set it up as best I could, but just like any good event, everything falls off as soon as it gets started, and everybody rolled with the punches, and we only had 2 wrecks, and they weren't too bad.
How do they start? Did you have like a little, like the BMX thing where there's little boards that kind of like...
That's a conversation. That's a conversation for future versions. No, we just put the cars on the street at a spot and...
Had someone kind of hold them for a second.
We stood in front of them so they didn't roll while they climbed in. And they, like the other... Like, it was actually kind of cool. Like different racers were pushing the other team started. Like, like...
They can get a push start?
Yeah, they did. I was advocating against it. I wanted it to just be...
Okay, sorry. Go
ahead. And I agree, because my plan was it was literally one of us who was operating the race would stand in front with like our hands on the nose of the car, and then when we say go, we just
let go,
get out of the way.
Yeah.
And then let gravity do its thing. But whatever, they push started. It's not that big a deal.
I didn't give you a pretty big fucking advantage.
Well, it depends on how good your pusher is. But like I said, like we had like teams were pushing for each other.
Right.
Like everybody was helping each other out. Like that was the nice thing about it. Like everybody was really on board of making it a good time.
That does make it a lot more even.
With the competitive kind of thing. But yeah, I agree. Like I think next time, one of the things I kind of want to do is I want to go get a trailer, and get like a, I mean, not even a tall trailer, but like a trailer from like you see the like the lawn mowing crew trailers.
Yeah.
Or even one of their trucks. But a trailer that has a ramp on it, you just put the ramp down and put like a plywood on the ramp part, not that weird metal, whatever, but put some plywood on there. And so set them in the trailer and then have something that you can drop off. And so that the steepness of the trailer gets them a good go, but it's an even good go. Both cars running next to each other get the same gravitational push off the slope of the trailer instead of a pusher. But yeah, just get some sort of like wheel chocks. Let the trailer be a little bit down angled, and then just pull the wheel chocks out. Excuse me. And that's your starting block. I don't know. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
It was a good time. Everybody had a good time.
That's all.
Nobody died. No death. No real injuries. A little bit of road rash for a couple people, but I got burnt as shit. I got so much sunburn.
Did it flatten out where you had him stop? Did somebody try to like catch him down there?
No, that's the thing. It's a holler, bro. You go back uphill.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's the funniest thing to me is like I am not a Tennessee person. I'm not a mountain. I'm not an Appalachian by birth or whatever. But how many times I had to explain what a holler is in interviews and stuff leading up to this, and how what do you consider happy holler? It's like, well, a holler is the low point between two hills. So there's a hill that crests here, and there's a hill crest here. Everything between those two hilltops is the holler. Like that's what it is. Like I don't know how else to describe it, but and so the way we set the track is so you went up the hill, and actually we had 6 categories of winners, a bit complicated, whatever. But like our 2 more like standard racing ones was literally fastest time on the stopwatch down the hill, and then whoever rolled up the hill before gravity stopped them. And so, like that was one of my jobs of the day, as I was chasing them up the hill, and I had a piece of chalk and put a big chalk line down and write their car number. And so the chalk line that was the highest up the hill was the winner of the highest up the hill challenge.
Gotcha. That's good.
Which actually, interestingly enough, like I assumed it was going to be, whoever is the fastest is going to get the highest. But there's a couple of people who won their head-to-head race, but the slower car down the hill actually went further up the other hill, and they said they didn't brake. We had some questionable engineering at play, I think is what is the truth here.
I mean, mass could have been involved in as well if you had just a heavier person,
right? And so, but yeah, we had a couple cars that didn't even quite make it down to the bottom of the hill, because of some engineering issues. But it was fun. It was good time. Like Tim's Fencing raced 4 cars. They were all Mario Kart. We had a Mario, a Luigi, a Bowser, and a Yoshi.
That's funny.
And they were really funny because it was all fence scrap basically that they used. So a bunch of chain link fence poles. Yeah. They had welded together into the frame, and welded together into this, and welded together in that. And like a couple of them were sitting really high. Like they were one of them was he used a chair of some sort, like kind of a semi I think it was a folding chair, like a standard aluminum folding chair. And he welded that into his fence post frame. And so he was sitting like real high in his chair. But he was one of the ones that duffed it too, and that was a good fall. So anyway, I enjoyed the Soapbox Derby. Look out October 26th. We're going to do it again. Come check it out. If you want to build a derby car, you probably should start now, because apparently I learned engineering matters. Take some time, do some math, get somebody that knows what they're doing to help put some pieces together, because this, the one thing, the best built car was the best racing car, for sure. But not the prettiest, by far.
That's how it goes sometimes.
Indeed. It was a nice looking car.
You work on functionality and not aesthetics.
So what was the other one I wanted to touch on? There was something else on my list. School budget stuff, yeah. County budget or city budget meetings this week. We'll see what that comes to be at the end of the week. Her American Cannon's budget, whatever, it's at the World's Fair amphitheater.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go, you can park at the Civic, and they'll take a shuttle down there. If you want a mid-morning snack, you can register before you go, and they'll have some food for you.
Not a bad idea.
I was kind of thinking I might give I might go to some of my neighborhood in the holler there, homeless people, and be like, hey, you want some free lunch on Saturday or Friday? And register, and just go online and register all of them to go and get them down to the Civic so they can take the bus over there. And just as a publicity stunt, see how many show up and see how that meeting goes when you got like 50 bums hanging out.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a bad person for that one. I know. I apologize. What was the other one? I just thought of it. The state budget. That we did mention that earlier, that the state budget of $52.68 billion or so, give or take, which really puts some of my hemp arguments in perspective. Again, historically speaking, the budget has been passed, so the session is over. There's a few little odds and ends and thises and that's for them to touch up to finish the year, but nothing of any significance will likely pass. There's the voucher people are holding out hope that somehow they're going to pull it off, but I don't. I think the vouchers are defeated for this year at least. Governor Lee's got 2 more sessions under his tutelage to try again.
Can he do an executive order?
Nope.
Of that? No.
Nope. None of that. Not like that. Tennessee is a very weak governor state. The governor doesn't have a lot of whatever. Governor Lee, among other governors, is pitching a fit about the Volkswagen plant and their UAW drive right now.
So this will be like the second time they've tried to have a
third.
vote?
There's 2 failed. There's 2 failed votes in the past. I don't know if UAW was the union in previous versions of it. UAW is certainly looking a little bit more functional and better as a union now than it was last time. They've landed some major wins in some major categories in the last little bit. I don't know. I get into the union thing and I get lost. Like I'm not opposed to the premise. Like I'm not opposed to the premise of a group of employees getting together and be like, hey, you know what? You need us and you don't pay us enough, or you need us and you don't really give a shit that, every couple of days somebody cuts their hand off in your fucking factory or whatever. Let's see if we can do something about fixing that, or we're going to stop making whatever it is you want us to make.
Right.
Like, I'm not really opposed to that premise. The part that I get stuck on is where, in this case, it would not be the state of Tennessee, but it'd be the state, meaning the United States Department of Labor, stepping in, demanding that the business owner has to deal with the union. Like, I guess to me, there's some iffy whatever. It's like that ballot initiative we had 2 years ago now was on union stuff, which was basically saying you cannot have a union. You can have a union shop, but you cannot obligate a new hire to be part of your union.
Yeah.
Which I don't know, man. Like,
or that one's still being really confusing.
Like, to me, like, my understanding was basically, so, like, in a lot of states, and in a lot of union-friendly states, you go get a job, and in getting that job, you are automatically, like Jesse talked about it when he was in New York and worked for the New York Times. When he was employed with the New York Times, he was automatically a member of the whatever journalist union that the New York Times employs, for lack of a better word. And as part of that, he is not obliged... He's obliged to be a member, but he's not obliged. They can't legally make him pay dues, but he is a member.
Yeah.
And he said, and if I recall the conversation correctly, he was saying that in hindsight, he wished he should have paid dues. The union was a good thing; it was important, and he didn't really give a shit about it at the time. And so he's like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, but I'm not paying for it." And blah blah blah. I think I don't recall correctly, Jesse. I'm sorry if I'm misquoting you on this. And so, like, I certainly can see, I see from the union standpoint where the value would be, well, for doing this union thing, it doesn't work if only half the people work here are in the union. So if you're going to work here, you have to be in the union. But it's like, So now when I get a job, I'm signing up for two things at once. I don't know if I want to do that. I certainly could see where making me pay into it is an extra problem as well. But Tennessee, at least, and a lot of states don't oblige you to pay dues. But they do. Some states oblige you to be a member of the union to take the job.
I mean, I don't really see much of an issue if it's like the New York Times or whatever. How their publication does it. We're like, hey, you're automatically in this. It's kind of like, you get a job at a grocery store, and it's like you automatically get the rewards program. You probably get additional discounts on top of that, but it's like, hey.
Yeah, but if
it's not costing you anything, but you're automatically like a member of this group because
right. But from the union side, it's like, well, how does the union continue to function and survive when people aren't paying dues because they don't have to? You're allowed to be a member and not pay your dues.
I mean, maybe the New York Times proper pays a certain chunk every year to cover all their employees, and then it's just icing on top of the cake of people that are basically like donating to the union.
But that's where I push. That's where I would push. But if that's part of the contract, that's fucked up. Like if I'm management at New York Times, it's like, so you want me to pay you to
management having to pay it?
What?
So the management's not paying it. Wait, what managers are you talking about? I'm talking about the corporate level, like the
that's
CEO
management.
or whatever.
And that is the level. That's the okay. I'm sorry. When in the
management, you're talking about like editors, like
no, sorry, no. That's the sorry. The general conversation would be management and labor. Management being the CEOs and what you're talking about. Labor being the in this case the journalists.
Okay.
Probably the editors as well are probably on the union side, not the management side in this particular case.
Right.
So. As management, you're asking me to pay for you as the employee, not just for you and the employee. Part of the union contract is probably to give you a raise as an employee. And I've got to pay a chunk to you as the union to represent the employees so that they can ask me for more money as a block. It seems counterintuitive. Now, I understand that it probably happens. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. But as the employer in the situation, it's like, so you want me to accept the fact that you're functionally against me because you're a third party, especially you're against me interacting directly with my employees. You're the go-between for my interaction with my employees as far as employment goes, not as far as management of the job itself. But you're my go-between for that, and you're basically you're forcing me to hire you to be my go-between between my employees. Why can't I just go directly to my employees with issues? Why can't my employees come directly with me? That's probably the real problem, is that employees don't feel like they can, or companies don't let them. I'm not saying it's the employee's fault.
I would think in that profession it's a little bit different, kind of like factory work. To where Jesse, I think, was basically like freelance. So you have all these freelancers that are probably working at multiple.
I think it makes more. I think union stuff makes more sense to me in a profession like journalism than it does to factory work, because the value of the employee is different. I mean, at the end of the day, like that's the conversation to me. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you had all the Hollywood strikes.
Right.
That was like, I don't remember what union, but it was like, large unions.
Writers' Union was a big part of it. Screen Actors Guild supported it because they were supporting their writers. And the Screen Actors Guild was also supported because of the AI revolution and some of the crazy shit that is possible now.
But I think it was a lot more like behind-the-scenes people, too. Just like the gaffers
and the grips.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think you get to the... I don't know. Again, I think to me, as a boss,
I remember to ask Jesse about how his understanding of how they had it set up.
Okay, I'll if I remember, I will try to ask him about it. I mean, I'd love to kind of go to talk to some union people. Like, I'm sure there's some pro-union people. I'm sure there's some union shops here in Knoxville that I can talk to a union rep. And we got the United.
I've seen the buildings for like the local
there's
electricians and
there's an electrical guild that is up there off a not off a.
I've seen one off an interstate.
Emory, yeah, it's between Emory and Callahan.
Yeah, that's where I was. Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, it's between Callahan and Merchants, but it's right there off of Central. They're not. Yeah, I think it's still Central right there. Anyway, yeah, I'll go knock on the door and be like, "Hey, help me understand how this works, because I'm confused."
Who told you about us?
But like, I mean, like that one at least, like some of those make sense. Like some of that stuff makes sense because like that, like the electrical workers one that's right there, like that building is a training facility.
Yeah.
Like they bring guys in and like you can go in there, like you and I could go in there and be like, hey, I want to be an electrician. They're not going to train us to be a full-on electrician. But if you have some experience or knowledge or whatever, they'll teach you some of the updates to this, that, and the other. Like some of that stuff becomes like a value add to you as the employee, and that's how the union works. Is the union makes you a better employee so that you can demand more money.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool. Like I think that's super cool because if I'm a electrician company and I want to hire electricians, and I want ones that have the stamp of approval from the Knoxville United Electrical Workers Union or whatever it is, I know that they've gone through and learned some things and know some stuff and have been trained on some updates and this, that, and the other, so I have a better employee on the other side so that you're worth that $27 an hour or whatever it is that a union electrician demands.
Yeah.
But that's the knowledge is there with that. It's like, okay, that's a fair trade. Like that's a give and take, and I like that. But I don't know that that's true in all unions. Like I don't know that the United Auto Workers is having, seminars with their, line workers to teach them how to weld better on the car. I guess my assumption is they're not, which may not be fair on my part.
I'd say nowadays most of that welding's done mechanically.
Well, I mean, and that's one of the weird things about the United Auto Workers to me right now too, is like a lot of their pushback and a lot of why they have such pull right now is because there's so much automation going on. So much AI going on, so much of that kind of stuff. Like one of the big thing United Auto Workers is on right now is they are actively against automated driving, which I'm kind of actively against that too.
Yeah.
But they're actively against that not because of the safety concerns of it, but because a lot of professional drivers will lose their jobs. That's going to happen. That's just I don't know how it's not. I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but that's the reality. At some point, this is going to catch up. The computers will be smart enough to drive the cars better than we can, safer than we can. And while I wholly understand the idea of advocating to keep people working, that is important. This Pandora's box is open. You can't put this one. There's no putting this whatever back in the jar. We're going to have self-driving vehicles, and especially in the commercial side of it, especially in the long-haul trucking side of it. We're going to have automated driving. There's no way around it. And if your goal to keep people employed, if when the technology gets enough that it's functionally safer, which is going to take a while, but we're going to get there. So your goal to keep people employed is unsafe compared to the alternative, that becomes a weird argument to make as the union on that one. Now, I acknowledge 100% that there's a big gap between where we are now in that technology and where we're going to be.
Yeah.
But when we get there, you're advocating for less safe road conditions in order to keep people working.
I was mentioning the other day on AI, essentially it was just kind of like smaller commuter buses, like 10, 15 passenger, just like small buses. I don't think there was any in the U.S., but there was a couple Asian cities. I think there was like one in Indonesia that had, but it didn't go over like 25 miles an hour.
Right. Like in very, very congested areas, I guess? Or?
Yeah, pretty, in a city. Yeah, it was in a major city. It was basically just like a small like city bus, like public transportation.
I don't know. One of the city buses. I mean, the perfect example of where automated driving gets weird is we had a city bus out in front of us hit a guy, and I think it's the guy's fault personally. He opened his door as the bus was coming by in a parallel spot. But I don't know how AI would respond to that,
Well, I have other cities, and I think there's some in the U.S. where you have specifically designated bus-only lanes.
Yeah.
That's like literally the only traffic that's supposed to be traveling in that lane whatsoever.
Well, this guy was in a parallel parking spot.
Right.
And the bus was coming down the road next to him. Right. And he didn't look. And my interpretation of it, to be allegedly, I don't know, whatever, to save my legal libel state or whatever, it seemed to me as if the bus was coming down the street and this guy wasn't looking and just opened his door.
Right.
And that bus took his door off.
That's one thing I probably wouldn't think about as much parking downtown. But like, I'm ready to get out of my car.
Yeah.
Not gonna be like, oh, is there somebody coming?
I see. Like I saw on the topic. I saw one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life on urban driving, whatever you want to call it. So this lady parks in the parallel spot in front of us. And we're sitting there. I was at work and I was looking out the window and I noticed her because I thought I had a customer. I was excited. And so I'm watching this lady. She gets out of her car, right? She parallel parks on my side of the street. She gets out of her car, walks around the front of her car onto the sidewalk, and then immediately walks across the street. She didn't come onto the sidewalk to walk down to a crossing zone or anything. She jaywalked. And it's like, why didn't you just get out of your car and go across the street? Why did you come onto the sidewalk?
Maybe she was still orientating herself.
To then look up that way. Maybe. I mean, that's probably the most logical explanation, but it was just really awkward to watch because like she clearly looks over her shoulder to get out of her car because traffic's coming from behind her. So she gets out of her car. She's in the street, walks around the front of her car to get out of the street, and then walks back into the street to go where she's going.
Yeah. I bet she was probably just using like some kind of map direction. Right. And it's like, you've arrived. So she's like, okay, I'll park. And I get out. It's like, oh, wait, that's across the street. Okay,
yeah.
Never mind.
Very possible, very possible. I forgot what button it is. What's that button? I had to stare it down.
I almost sent this one to you a minute ago because it's actually a funny-looking mugshot. Man who won primary election while charged with murder, convicted on lesser charge.
That's right. Be an elected official, and you don't go to jail as badly as you would if you weren't.
Let's see here.
I'm going to news of the awesome Jaromir Jagr, oldest man ever to score a goal in professional hockey. My dude.
The team that he owns.
Whatever, he did the thing.
He did do a thing.
He, what does he come to?
And he found his bobbleheads, right?
Yeah. Oldest player ever.
Yeah, I saw something about that. Like, he still gets out there and plays. But yeah, he has very few goals that he scores. I'm not even sure like how long of shifts he actually goes out there and actually does.
52 years old, scoring goals.
Let's see here. Yeah, Indiana man won a primary election for a township board position while charged with killing his estranged wife. Has been found guilty of the lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter. So he was charged with murder and the death of his wife. He was reported missing by co-workers. Body was found in a creek near her home the next day. She had filed for divorce and recently finished up chemo treatments for cancer. Awesome.
Nice, bro. Winner. And he won his election. That's what I'm talking about. Proper politician.
Told police he struck his wife with a flower pot during an argument, then dumped her body in the creek.
Yeah, nice, bro. Speaking of the dude with the gold bars, I forgot his name. Remember that story?
Say again?
I think it's a federal. Oh, God, what state was he from? I don't remember what state he's from.
Oh, Missouri?
I don't remember. What's the dude's name? Remember?
No, I thought I saw it.
But
I didn't know if it was the same
gold
story.
Bars and all sorts of shit, like straight up corruption shit that he got caught doing. Gold bars in his pocket.
No,
cash
I don't
money.
remember. I thought you were talking about the kid that they found in the river like just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, no.
He was missing.
Congressman or something like that. That's what I was talking about.
Okay, no.
Yeah, he's blaming it all on his wife. That's his defense in court. It's his wife's fault.
What had happened now?
It's clear corruption. Like he's just getting paid off for whatever in gold bars.
Oh, the federal guy, Bob Menendez.
Yeah, it's his wife's fault. Which she wasn't his wife at the time. They got married somewhere through the process.
Yeah, because something had to do with like her family ties as well.
Yeah. Classy man shit, like proper gentlemanly action. It is your wife's fault for you taking bribes.
Let's see here. We got a Nigerian chess champion is trying to break the world record for longest chess marathon.
Oh man, I thought he was in prison and he needed help. He needed to borrow $1,000 and he'd give me 20 back.
Let's see here. He's attempting to play.
I really thought you were going to give me a Nigerian prince scam.
Attempting to play chess nonstop for 58 hours in Times Square.
In Times Square?
Because he hopes to raise $1 million for children's education across Africa.
Good job, dude. Get it. Get after it.
You were just giving him shit for doing it.
I am giving him shit for it because who gives a fuck. But I encourage you all to go to Breaking Point's YouTube channel and check out a debate that Sagar hosted or moderated on the Israel-Gaza, Israel-Iran issues. It's very interesting. It's Dave Smith, Yank, what's his name? Guy that runs Young Turks. He was going to be a presidential. He tried to run for president, but he's not a natural born citizen.
I think I know the face, but I don't know his name.
Yank Uyghur or something. Dennis Prager and some lady I didn't recognize. I don't know her from anything, but it was very interesting. It did break into some stuff that like I was trying. Like I'm a big Dave Smith fan anyway, but it was very interesting. A lot of interesting points on parts and pieces of the conversation around it. It was a very good debate. And I'd be interested in your personal take on it if you got the chance to watch it. It's 2 hours. It's not insignificant. I listened to it. I just listened to it as a podcast, even though it was a YouTube show. You don't need to see them talk.
Yeah.
It's just them talking. And it got a little bit messy where they're all talking over each other from parts and pieces. That it's very, very neat, very cool, very interesting, very informative. If you have the time. You got one more for us?
I was trying to find it.
You can find it. You can do it right now.
There it is. Got 9 people arrested, facing charges in what authorities are calling the biggest gold theft in Canadian history.
Ooh, Canucka Stadies. I love them.
Let's see here. 6,600 gold bars worth more than 20 million Canadian dollars, or 14.5 million American dollars.
Yeah.
And let's see
I didn't
here.
know that the Israelis use shekels. I didn't know that was a real currency.
No.
I just always feel like it's just like shekels. I just feel like it's like an old Yiddish throwaway. He gave me shekels.
It's just been their currency for.
I was just saying. I didn't realize that was a thing. Anyway, $20 million in gold bars, Canadian,
and 1.8 million American dollars in foreign currencies. It was melted down and used to purchase illegal firearms, police said. They figured out there was people that I guess they had to have people on the inside as well, because they used some kind of like bill of lading for like frozen food or something. I guess so they could show that that the person that controls all of it, was filling out some kind of paperwork or approving some kind of paperwork. But I think I remember this before because it's that's a shit ton of weight for you to be able to like take out. So you have to have like the means to be able to transport that much weight.
Where did they take it? Like, where did they steal it from?
From an airport.
Yeah, that would be pretty clearly some large boxes.
So you got a Air Canada warehouse employee, a former Air Canada manager who gave police a tour of cargo of the facility after the theft, and a jewelry store owner is also charged. This story is a sensational one, which probably, we jokingly say, belongs in a Netflix series. Let's see here, weighing. Well, gold bars weighing, it's just a little under half a ton.
Yeah, not much.
Well, I mean,
only 1,000 pounds. Well, it's a metric ton. It's Canadians.
No, 923 pounds, or 419 kilos.
I don't remember I don't understand the tonnage anymore.
Half a ton is 2,000 pounds. So this was under 1,000 pounds. So, like I said, a little under half a ton.
Yeah, it's not nothing.
It's not nothing, but it's something you could throw in a car or a heavy duty.
You could put that in a truck. Yeah, you could carry it. Yeah, but you still, carrying
still
it
a lot of weight. Yeah,
more than 3 dudes had to carry it. You're not walking out with 300 pounds on your back.
I guess I was thinking that many gold bars. I figured they might have to have like those like armored trucks or whatever to carry that shit out.
Well,
yeah. See, the bill they used was for seafood that was picked up a day before. And a duplicate was printed off at the Air Canada warehouse.
Get you some, peeps. Go ahead and get you some.
No more. They're busted.
Busted. Don't steal gold bars and pretend they're fish. That's what I learned tonight. I hope you learned something too. almost-agreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to the website, almost-agreement.com. Check out all the cool stuff we got on there. Holleroo was a great success. Thank you for everybody who came out and showed up, all the volunteers, all the vendors, all the great bands. Oh my God, Dos Fuegos. Check them out if you get the chance, wherever you are. If you see Dos Fuegos on the bill, pay the money, go inside and see the show, because those guys are amazeballs. The wonderful derby drivers for all their work, all the neighbors down there in the holler, you guys did a great job. I'm so proud of us for what we created, and I can't wait to do it again. almost-agreement@gmail.com. Stick around. We got some exciting, fun, budgetary shit to break down over the next couple of weeks, so we'll see how all that goes. So we're almost agreement. Stay tuned. We'll do some more stuff as stuff comes to us.